Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be something a little bit different than what I've been doing lately. Obviously at this point in time we are slap bang in the middle of the championship transfer window, and some pretty massive deals have been done so far in the championship. So what I thought I'd do for this video is count down the most expensive championship starting 11. So for a player to be involved in this team, they need to have signed for a club in the championship and still be playing for that club. So to clarify, this isn't just from this transfer window, this is from the championship in general over the past few seasons, and we're going to be looking now at what has been the most expensive championship starting 11. And what I want to know from you guys is, do you think these players have justified their price tags? Let me know down below. And also leave a comment in the comments down below as to what is your club's most expensive transfer, and were they a good signing for you or were they a bit of a flop? Let me know down below, because in this video here today we have some pretty massive championship transfers. So without further ado guys, let's get into it. So for this I decided to do this on FIFA 17 as I thought the layout for that would be a little bit simpler. So we're going with the classic 4-4-2 formation, and let's just jump in straight away with the goalkeeper. So coming in goal is actually going to be David Button. Now this was one which actually really surprised me. Now technically it should be Goalkeeper from Aston Villa, who did technically sign for them for 4.25 million, but the reason I'm including David Button is because Goalkeeper is currently out on loan, so he's not currently playing for Aston Villa. So for that reason I went with the second most expensive keeper, and that is actually David Button, which really surprised me, to be honest. He signed for Fulham in the last transfer window for 1.96 million in the last summer transfer window, and I think Fulham fans will give pretty mixed reviews as to what they think of David Button. I think he was actually dropped towards the end of last season when Fulham were heading into the playoffs. So it's an interesting transfer. 1.96 million. Is he worth that? I'm not so sure. And then coming into the team next of all, guys, we actually have someone who last season was in the Premier League, and that is Moses Odebeja. Now this guy does qualify for being in the list, as he did actually sign for Hull when they were in the Championship. Obviously since then they went to go to the Premier League and get relegated again, but now he's back in the Championship. So for that reason he does make it onto this list, and he signed for Hull back in the 15/16 season. He was signed from Brentford for a fee of around about 4.25 million, so he wasn't cheap, this guy, and for a fullback that is pretty expensive. I mean, I know we've seen nowadays, I think Kyle Walker seems to be going to Man City for 50 million, which is pretty mental, but overall I actually do like this guy. Whenever I've seen him play he's been a very solid performer, and he's still quite young as well, so still has the potential to go on and improve. Now let's move on to the centre backs coming into this team. So we'll hop on back into the Championship, and the first one coming in is actually going to be James Chester, who was signed from West Bromwich Albion back in the 16/17 season, and he actually signed for a fee of about 7.91 million, which is definitely not cheap for a centre-back. Obviously he has gone on to captain Aston Villa. He was their captain for last season, and quite an interesting transfer. I think he's a pretty solid defender for Villa, and I think he will have quite a big role to play in any Championship side, really. I think he's more than capable of being a very good Championship defender. And then the next centre-back coming into the list is going to be Bruno Ikulamanga, and Manga, he's had quite a torrid time at Cardiff, really, especially with his injury record, which has been a little bit unfortunate for him, really. But overall, when he is actually fit to play, he is a very good defender in my opinion, and I know that Neil Warnock rates him, as he I think he recently signed a new 2-year contract, but he was signed from Ligue 1 for a fee of 5.36 million back in the 14/15 season. And then into left back we go, and left back was actually quite a cheap position, really, and there weren't many expensive left backs in the Championship, and the most expensive one recently was actually Rico Henry, who of course signed for Brentford, transferring from Walsall for a fee of only 1.53 million, which realistically isn't actually that much, considering as well he's only 20 years old. He's got bags of potential to grow, grow, and one for the future, definitely. So guys, this is where the list gets really interesting, and this is where the list also gets really expensive. So coming in at right mid is going to be Helder Costa. I know he's a left mid on FIFA, but he does play right mid in real life. But this guy signed for Wolves, of course, transferring from Benfica last season, and he actually cost Wolves 12.75 million. So this guy was not cheap at all, but I think it's fair to say he did have a highly successful first season in the Championship. I mean, he managed to score 10 goals and get 8 assists, I think. So definitely going to be a massive player for Wolves this season as well. I think, unfortunately for Wolves fans, he will actually miss the start of the season due to injury. So they'll definitely be looking to get him back as soon as possible. But is Helder Costa worth 12.75 million? Let me know down below. And now guys, we are going into our centre mid. So coming in as our first centre mid is going to be Alex Pritchard, of course. Last season, playing for Norwich, didn't really have the best of first seasons, really. Him under Alex Neil didn't really seem to click, which was quite disappointing, really. But going into this season, he's definitely a player to keep your eye on. I think he could be integral for Norwich this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can actually produce. But of course, he signed for Norwich last season for a fee of 7.99 million. Of course, he arrived from Tottenham Hotspurs, and in that first season, he managed to score 6 goals and get 7 assists. So it's okay, but for an attacking midfielder, you'd want a little bit more. Obviously, he didn't play that much because he wasn't really in Alex Neil's plans. And then coming in next to him, we actually have the most expensive transfer on this list. I believe he's a CDM in FIFA. That is, of course, Ruben Neves, who has literally just signed for Wolves, and he signed for Wolves for a fee of £15.22 million, which for a Championship club just absolutely blows my mind. I can't believe Wolves are spending all this money at the moment, but of course he arrived from Porto, only 20 years old, so really a young player to be splashing out that much money on. But I mean, we've already talked about this guy in length on the channel so far, being the Champions League captain at 18. He's got a lot of experience in his locker for the age he actually has, and obviously has a massive potential to grow into. And then coming in at left mid is actually a really surprising one to me. It is actually going to be Yannick Vilschut, and I couldn't really believe this one, but Yannick Vilschut obviously signing for Norwich in the January transfer window, and he actually cost them 6.97 million from Wigan Athletic, which is pretty baffling to me, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what you guys think of him, but is he worth that? I don't think he's worth anything near that, in my honest judgment. I know Norwich fans, they've seen a little bit of him so far, so Norwich fans, let me know down below what you actually make of this guy. I'm not completely sold on him, if I have to be completely honest, and whether he fits into how Norwich are going to play this season, it's yet to be seen. And then guys, to finish off the team, so coming in as our first striker, it is going to be Jonathan Kodjia, and to be fair to this guy, he had a pretty phenomenal first season for Aston Villa. He was playing in an Aston Villa side who massively underachieved last season, but even so, he managed to go ahead and bag 19 goals for them. As well as that, he was also been playing out wide during quite a few games, and he went away for the African Cup of Nations. So for him to bag 19 goals is pretty good for Aston Villa, I think it's fair to say. But he of course signed from Bristol City for a fee of 10.97 million, so definitely wasn't a cheap player, but he is a very talented player, and whenever he's been in the Championship, obviously with either Bristol City or Aston Villa, he's lit it off. So guys, let me know down below, how many goals do you think Jonathan Kodjia will score this season for Aston Villa? Let me know down below. And then the last player coming into the list is going to be Ross McCormack. And I mean, this Ross McCormack transfer is pretty unprecedented, really. We all know about this one. He signed for Aston Villa last summer for a fee of £12.16 million. And how many goals did he manage to score that season? 4. He managed to grab 4 goals in that season, which is absolutely baffling, of course. Towards the latter end of that season, he was shipped out on loan to Nottingham Forest after it really wasn't working out for him at Aston Villa, but definitely a flop, I think it's fair to say, in his first season, which is a shame actually for Ross McCormack, because wherever he's been before Villa, he's always been a pretty prolific goal scorer. I mean, at Fulham he was excellent, Leeds he was excellent in the Championship, but it's just not worked for him out at Villa. Guys, let me know down below, do you think Ross McCormack could still be a a success at Aston Villa. I'm unsure about what I think about that really. But guys, that will wrap it up for this video. So as you can see on screen there, that is the most expensive Championship starting 11, which is pretty baffling really that this is the most expensive 11. If you think that this was an actual team in the Championship, where do you think this squad would actually finish? Let me know down below. But apart from that guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you check out all the other links in the description down below. Make sure you drop me a follow on Twitter, as I always tweet before I upload a video. Therefore you'll never miss a video ever again. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for regular Championship content. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.